Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the greatest artists I think of all time, David Bowie. Where do you start with David Bowie? That's the problem. I currently have 53 David Bowie albums, which are right behind me, as well as DVDs. I think Bowie, I hate to use the word genius, but musically, I think he's a genius. He always surrounded himself with the best musicians. He was always able to fulfill whatever musical aspirations he had. I think he's phenomenal. I pretty much have most of his albums. There's a couple that I don't have, but like I said, I have 53 of them. I happen to think that all of his albums are valid. Even the albums that are considered not so good, they all have stuff on them that are worthwhile. But if you wanted to get into David Bowie, where do you start? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out my 5 favorite Bowie albums, and that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to call it the David Bowie Starter Pack. These are the 5 albums that I would recommend you start with. And then I'll show all the other CDs that I have. So if you enjoy the video, you can check them all out. Otherwise, at least you'll get an idea of where to start. So I'm going to start right now. My 5th favorite Bowie album. And how I pick my favorite is what I listen to the most. You know, I could analyze albums to death, but at the end of the day, it's all about turntable time. What do you listen to? So these are my 5 most listened to favorite Bowie albums. Number 5 is from 1971. This one here called Hunky Dory. I think this was really his first great album. I mean, it's got changes on it. Oh, You Pretty Things, Life on Mars, which is unbelievable. And it's a great example of how he surrounds himself with great musicians. Rick Wakeman, of course, the legendary keyboard player from Yes, is all over Life on Mars. And it would have been a great song nevertheless, but Rick Wakeman is such a melodic keyboard player that he just completely adds to the melody of that. Just a great track. It's a really good album. That's my number 5 favorite. My number 4 favorite, well, that would be from 1976, and that's Station to Station. This is a deluxe box set of it. One of the things about Bowie, his albums have been reissued and reissued tons of times with bonus tracks and further reissues and remasters. But this is a great version because it's got a double live CD from the Nassau Coliseum 1976 from the Station to Station tour. But this album, top to bottom, is a damn near perfect album. There's the tracks right there. You probably know Golden Years, but Wild is the Wind, Word on a Wing, amazing songs. There's not a bum note on this album. Station to Station, my number 4 all-time favorite Bowie album. My all-time favorite number 3 would be this album. I love this album. This is the 30th anniversary 2 CD edition of Aladdin Sane, with a bunch of bonus tracks on there. But this album also, top to bottom, you know, Watch That Man, the title track, Driving Saturday, Panic in Detroit, Cracked Actor, Time, Gene Genie, the Gene Genie. The hidden gem on this album is the final track, a thing called Lady Grinning Soul. And that's a great example as well. Talk about piano. I love the piano work on Bowie's stuff. And Mike Garson was always his go-to piano player. I mean, just put on Lady Grinning Soul, YouTube it, and listen to the piano work of Mike Garson. It's haunting. It's just so memorable. But this is a phenomenal album, and this is my all-time number 3. My all-time number 2 would be, I think most people's all-time favorite. They would say it's his best album. It probably is his best album, and that's Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. This album, to be played at maximum volume, it says, also, top to bottom, damn near perfect, 5 years, Soul Love, Moon Age Daydream, Starman, Lady Stardust, Star, Hang On To Yourself, the title track, Suffragette City, Rock and Roll Suicide. Oh my God. I mean, damn near perfect. I just think it ain't easy. It's just okay. And this one is a version with some bonus tracks. There's a lot of different versions of this album. This is, pound for pound, his best album. And this would be my number 2. And the reason why my number one album is a little bit different is because everybody has a personal experience. My number one Bowie album is Diamond Dogs. Why? Because it's the first Bowie album that I ever heard. My sister had it in 1974. I played this album to death. This is the 30th anniversary 2 CD edition as well in the slipcase. But I just think this album's incredible. If I think it has the greatest opening of any album. So do yourself a favor, lay down on a couch, turn down the lights, and put on the opening of this album. It starts off with Future Legend, which is really not a song. It's the scariest, creepiest opening of any album. I mean, it's just so memorable you'll never forget it. It'll spook you for sure. And that goes into the title track, Diamond Dogs. I think it's the greatest opening pretty much of any album. And then after that, it's just great. It's just all over the place. Sweet Thing and Candidate and Rebel Rebel, Rock and Roll With Me. 1984 is amazing. Big Brother's amazing. This, for me, is my number one album by David Bowie. It's really not as good as Ziggy Stardust, but for me, what can I tell you? So this would be my number one. So if you wanted to get into Bowie, you want to start with Ziggy Stardust. You want to do Aladdin Sane. You want to do Station to Station. After that, you check out Hunky Dory. And somewhere along the line, my favorite, Diamond Dogs. If you don't like these, then you're just not going to like David Bowie. But you will like these because they're undeniable classics in the history of music. The other way to start with Bowie is he's got tons of compilations. I mean, I have a bunch of them here. The ones that I would recommend, the first really great one was a double one. This one, the singles 1969 to 1983. And these are double CDs, and they're chronological, so they go from the very beginning all the way to the latest track at that time. This is a phenomenal one. That was replaced later on by this one, Best of Bowie. There's a single version. This is the double version. And it's the same thing. They're chronological, which is What You Want. It goes from classic to classic. And then depending on, like this one would have a later track, and they would knock off a couple of tracks from that one. There's tons of single collections. This one, is an interesting one. The Best of Bowie, 74 to 79. And, so it goes a little bit deeper because it only focuses on a couple of years. And then, of course, Bowie had his instrumental period, and this is a cool one, All Saints, which is collected instrumental tracks. A lot of stuff from Low and Heroes. This is a cool one called I Select, which is what it is. Bowie selected a bunch of his favorite tracks. There's Life on Mars, and Nice to See Lady Grinning Soul, a personal favorite of mine. But that's a really cool one. He did a couple, here's a different version. This was one of his later ones, Nothing Has Changed. This is a 2 CD version of that. And again, starts, chronologically from older stuff and then goes up to what was his most recent stuff. And this is the Nothing Has Changed. This is like a mini box. And this is a 3 CD set. There is no shortage of Bowie compilations out there. There's just tons. And if you really want to go for the gusto, here's a box set, Sound of Vision, out of print. But this is a 4 CD box set that's got tons of deep cuts, unreleased stuff, greatest hits, classic album tracks, things like that. Another thing about Bowie, he's a phenomenal live performer, and he always made amazing videos, even in the beginning. So he's a great artist to watch and listen to. So if you like DVDs and you have a setup like I have where you can watch DVDs and it comes through your stereo system, maybe even 5.1, then Bowie's a great guy to watch on video. And this is a beautiful DVD collection, The Best of Bowie, which is basically just all his videos in chronological order. So his videos are great, and he's a great live performer. So, there's the classic Ziggy Stardust, the motion picture. This is a box set DVD. And then, there's latter stuff. There's the Sirius Moonlight live show and Ricochet documentary, which was from the Let's Dance tour. And then there's the Glass Spider This is a DVD and a 2 CD set. This one had Peter Frampton on lead guitar, one of his more controversial tours, but I like it. A Reality Tour is more of his one of his recent tours, just phenomenal, and tons of bootleg stuff. You know, this is bootleg live stuff from the stage period of his career, and Cracked Actor from '74, which is Diamond Dogs, and I'm on the Dinosaur. So there's tons of Bowie stuff to watch, and he's such a great live performer. His videos are so great that that's a great way also to get into Bowie. The other thing is Bowie's great live, and he's got a ton of live albums. So you got Ziggy Stardust, the live album, which is a classic with the Spiders from Mars, Mick Ronson, Trevor Bolder, great stuff. And then a bootleg. This is a bootleg, but then it came out officially. Santa Monica '72 is also from Spiders from Mars. This was the first Bowie album I ever bought with my own money, David Live. This is from the Diamond Dogs tour. A lot of people didn't like this. I love it. Upside down, but there you go. And this is a deluxe edition. This was phenomenal. I love this one. And this one's special because it has Panic in Detroit, which is a killer live version on that, which was not on the original one. Stage is a really good double live record. This is like when he was doing live stuff with Heroes and Low, which has a lot of instrumental stuff. Another really cool live album. A lot of Ziggy Stardust stuff on here as well. So that's a really good live record. Tons of bootlegs from Serious Moonlight, the Let's Dance tour, and rehearsals with Stevie Ray Vaughan, who is going to be the original guitarist on that tour. Bowie at the Beeb, which is all his BBC recordings, and this was an original version that also had a live concert on there, a latter-day live concert, which was great. On VH1 Storytellers, where he talks about the songs and plays them. That's a CD and a DVD. The A Reality Tour, and this was a full-length concert. That was a really good album, latter-day album, Reality, and that's a great tour. Cracked Actor, he released, that's also from '74, similar to the David Live album. And then this came out a box set a couple of years ago. This is amazing. Glastonbury 2000. A phenomenal performance. So, you know, Bowie's great to watch as well as listen to. I don't know if you're still with me. If you are, thank you. I appreciate it. What I'll do now is I'll just show you chronologically the other Bowie albums I have. The great thing about Bowie is he covers every kind of genre in rock and roll and even outside of rock and roll. So really, depending on your mood, you could pretty much listen to Bowie whenever you want because his albums run the gamut. Some are classics, the ones I showed you already. Some are just okay, but even his albums that are just okay always have a couple of really good tunes on them. So, you know, he starts off way, way back as that's an anthology of his original stuff. You know, David Bowie, and then Space Oddity, which of course you know the title track of that. And this stuff doesn't sound anything like, you know, a lot of his latter day stuff. Classic, The Man Who Sold the World, wearing his man dress, but a lot of great songs on here. Width of a Circle, amazing. Man Who Sold the World, of course, really kind of made famous by Nirvana's cover. This was a covers album, Pin-Ups, pretty good. And a lot of people love this album, Young Americans. I think it's a fine record. This is a deluxe edition. Like I mentioned, a lot of his albums get re-released and re-released a million times. So this is a pretty famous album, Low. I like this one a lot. Half of it's like that Germanic Berlin instrumental, but a couple of the actual tracks with vocals is great. Sound and Vision is a great track. Heroes, a lot of people love this album. This is not one of my favorite albums, but of course the title track is certainly one of the greatest things he's ever done. That would be like in the top 5 of all-time greatest songs. Lodger, which came next. I am a DJ, I hear what I say. Look Back in Anger, Boys Keep Swinging. It's a good record. This is a really strong one. Scary Monsters, and you probably know the hits from this album. Ashes to Ashes and Fashion, great videos, but a lot of other really good songs on this album as well. His most commercially successful album by far is Let's Dance. Not one of my favorites at all, even when it came out. And it's not because I was trying to be contrarian, I just don't think it's that great of a record. But the title track's great, and Modern Love is amazing. And Cat People, which was for the soundtrack. Cat People's amazing. Tonight, an album that gets trashed. That was a follow up to that album, but a lot of really good things on here. I like Blue Jean, and Loving the Alien is unbelievable. And if you get the bonus one like this with This Is Not America with Pat Metheny's killer. Never Let Me Down, another album that got trashed. It's okay. Certainly not a great album, but it's alright. Tin Machine, another aspect of his career when he formed the band. It's really just him. But he wanted it to be a band. But there's a lot of good things on this album. And the second one, Tin Machine 2. And then Black Tie, White Noise, which has Jump They Say and other tracks. This is a deluxe edition with bonus tracks. And another interesting, tougher album to get into, Outside. This has Strangers When We Meet on there. And a couple other pretty cool tunes. This is a tougher album for sure. The Heart's Filthy Lesson, that's an amazing track. Earthling, another kind of tougher album to get into, but I'm Afraid of Americans is killer. Little Wonder, kind of sizable. This album, I kind of feel got overlooked. I really like Hours. He returned to being commercial, and there's a lot of commercial tracks on here. The initial single, Thursday's Child, I think is amazing, but Survive is phenomenal. 7 is a great song. It's a good record. Overlooked in his career, I think, for sure. This was some singles from that album. And then he came back strong with Heathen, a bit more experimental. A lot of really good things on this album. And Reality. And again, lots of different versions of these albums. These are tour editions that I have with bonus discs on it. I thought this was a pretty strong release. It's more commercial than Heathen. But a lot of good tracks on this album. And then he dropped this one out of nowhere the next day. I wasn't a fan of the cover. It's a takeoff of Heroes' cover. But this album, I was shocked how much I love this album. It actually went top 3 for me. This is a really strong record. Definitely a really strong latter-day Bowie album. And, of course, he finished off his career right when he passed away, unfortunately, with Black Star. And this was an EP of Lazarus and No Plan and the full-length Black Star album. A really courageous way for him to end his career. Really uncommercial album. It was a huge hit. Obviously, he passed away and everybody was buying it. This is a really, in a sense, tough listen. This album is not commercial at all. It's like discordant jazz, but it's a really strong record and a gutsy, amazing way to end his career. So David Bowie, I think one of the greatest artists of all time, pretty much does my collection, but I hope this helped you as a starting point where to dig into some of the greatest music ever produced by anybody, and a talent that is sorely missed by me and the world over. So thanks for tuning in. This is the Alan Rosenberg Show. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, hit subscribe. Please check out my other videos. And please tell your other friends, hey, you saw this guy. Nobody's watching his videos, but he's clearly passionate, and I certainly am. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Stay safe, and have a great night.